What's up, guys? It's the weekend. You know what time that means? It's time for a news dump.
So back in early 2014, HBO debuted True Detective, an anthology crime series starring Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey as a couple of homicide detectives down in Louisiana who over the course of 17 years investigate a series of murders with the story alternating between flashbacks and present day. It was very positively received, mostly thanks to the performances of its two leads, especially McConaughey, who as Detective Rust Cole played a severely disillusioned and nihilistic man prone to long-winded philosophical monologues.
And he loved Lone Star beer.
It's a great beer. It's a flat circle.
Since True Detective was conceived as an anthology series and its first season wrapped things up pretty nicely in the end, True Detective Season 2 was a brand new story completely separate from the events and characters of Season 1. They cast Colin Farrell, Rachel McAdams, Vince Vaughn, and Taylor Kitsch as leads, and they set the story in Southern California where it revolved around police corruption and organized crime.
Season 2 was not well received by fans of the first season. I personally enjoyed it. I thought it was a great piece of modern crime noir, but most critics felt it was nothing compared to its predecessor and was just dark as fuck, and all the characters were unlikable and stone-faced, and the plot was kind of a convoluted mess. I still enjoyed it a lot though, but I agree that it didn't have the same magic as Season 1, but that's because that magic was entirely thanks to Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson's character interactions.
And that one lady's boobs.
That's true.
Yeah.
Season 2 did not have nearly as good boobs.
Ever since Season 2 ended, the future of the series has been up in the air, with Season 3 seeming more and more like it would never happen, especially with creator Nick Pizzolatto busy with various other projects. But Matthew McConaughey was on the Rich Eisen show this past week, and when asked if he'd ever considered playing Rust Cole again, he replied, "Yeah, I would. I miss Rust Cole, man. I miss watching him on Sunday nights. I miss watching True Detective on Sunday nights. I was a happy man while we made that for 6 months because I was on my own island. And luckily, my wife put up with me. He was on his own island, not the same island as in Mud, but a different island, a theoretical island, if you will. Anyways, he continued, but yeah, I would, I've talked to Nick about it. It would have to be the right context or right way. That thing, when I read it, I knew in 20 minutes. I was like, if I can play this guy Rustin Cole, I'm in."
And despite the fact that True Detective basically relaunched his career along with Dallas Buyers Club, triggering what's become known as the McConaissance and giving him bigger, higher-paying movie roles, he says he'd come back.
Whoa, failure to launch was pretty good, Elliot.
Sure, he's just not there. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Yeah.
So despite all that, he says he'd come back to television without reservations. He says, "You're actually getting better quality dramas on the small screen today than you ever have been. A lot better than you get on the big screen sometimes." It's a great interview overall, and throughout it you can just really tell how much he loved playing that character. So who knows? Like he said, the script would have to be good, but assuming it is, this seems like something people would absolutely love to see. So hopefully Nick Pizzolatto and Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson can figure out a way to somehow make this work.
It's kind of weird that he liked it so much because it's such a dark role. I'm sure he had to get into a very dark mindset for it. So
yeah, in the interview he's like, I believe in God, but I'm saying these lines from Rust Cole, and I'm like, he's got a point.
Wow. Yeah. Also, it's great to see that potentially one of my favorite HBO shows might be coming back, as long as with the one that we reported last week, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's going to be the HBO Renaissance after
Habanaissance.
Yeah. Well, they still have Game of Thrones, right? For how long? How much longer?
One more season, supposedly.
Anyways, moving on. This is the last news dump of June, so you've only got a couple of days to watch a bunch of great titles before they leave Netflix to make way for new movies and TV shows in July. So here's our recommendations for what to watch before it disappears on Thursday night. The classic Stanley Kubrick masterpieces 2001: A Space Odyssey and A Clockwork Orange are both must-watch movies for any aspiring film snob. Then there's Christopher Guest's Best in Show, one of the best comedies ever. It's about contestants in a prestigious purebred dog show. If you partake in recreational cannabis, or even if you don't, Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke, that's also leaving, and it is literally the original stoner comedy. It is so good.
Created the genre. If you're like Ricky and you use TV mostly as a tool for dealing with insomnia, you're gonna wanna catch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood Volume 1 and Reading Rainbow Volume 1 before they disappear. If you've ever wanted to know about the early history of the US space program, The Right Stuff is an excellent 3-hour drama about military test pilots stretching from the late 40s to the early 60s. And then there's the science fiction space exploration of the first 7 Star Trek films from 1979 Star Trek the Motion Picture all the way through 1994 Star Trek Generations, which handed off the series to the next generation. And finally, if for whatever reason you've never watched Trey Parker and Matt Stone's Team America World Police, for God's sake, do yourself a favor. What are you doing?
Come on. They almost killed each other making that movie, so make sure you see it. But let's move on to new trailers from this week. Good God, there are a lot of them. An absurd amount of trailers came out this week. I don't know why, but here they are. Anyways, we're gonna skip the ones that we're not interested in, so let's start with the first trailer of the new The Birth of a Nation movie. We've previously talked about this, but it tells the true story of the controversial and brutal 1831 Nat Turner slave rebellion, and it debuted at Sundance this past January, where it was the talk of the festival and started a bidding war between the studios, with Fox Searchlight purchasing it for more money than any Sundance movie ever. It's the directorial debut of actor Nate Parker, who also wrote, produced, and stars in the film. So it comes out in theaters on October 7th, just in time for Oscar bait season.
I hate that this movie was ready to go back in January, but
Oh,
they're like,
a lot
we're
of
just
them
gonna
are.
hold on to it.
A lot of them are.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Next up, the trailer for War on Everyone, which stars Alexander Skarsgård and Michael Pena as basically the two most corrupt cops ever. They work as detectives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and they use their position to blackmail and/or frame every possible criminal they can, along the way getting high as fuck and doing whatever they damn well please.
It actually wasn't Heisenberg. It was these guys.
Eventually, though, they try to intimidate the wrong guy, and things take a turn.
Heisenberg.
Did I mention that this is a comedy, though? It's a dark comedy, obviously, but the vibe of the trailer feels very similar to something like The Nice Guys, which I loved.
Yeah.
After its premiere at the Berlin Film Festival in February, IndieWire reviewed it, and they said, "I'm not sure if any bad cops in the whole genre of bad cop comedy have paid so little lip service to actual policing as the pair in John Michael McDonough's War on Everyone, and I'm not sure that the genre has produced such an irresistibly funny film." The movie still has no US release date, but it does come out in the UK, or what's left of it,
yeah.
on September 30th.
But speaking of the UK, our next trailer is from Ron Howard's upcoming documentary, The Beatles, 8 Days a Week, The Touring Years, which might be the only time we've actually seen both a colon and a hyphen in a movie title. Anyways, the documentary is comprised of mountains of rare and unseen Beatles footage from the first half of their career, along with current day interviews with surviving members Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. There have been a lot of Beatles documentaries over the years, but this one focuses on a very specific part of their career, from their initial success up to their retirement from touring so they could get more experimental and focus entirely on recording. Yeah, it'll premiere theatrically on September 15th, and the next day it'll be available on Hulu for subscribers. And if you know anything about Ron Howard's films, he does great with history, so.
He's gonna be forced to this time.
Yeah.
Next up, The Girl with All the Gifts. It's a zombie movie that looks like it could bring something new to a genre that seems pretty played out at this point. It takes place in Britain in the near future. The very near future, where a disease outbreak causes zombie-like symptoms and leads to a sort of zombie apocalypse scenario. However, in this case, a small group of children have the infection, but aside from a hunger for human flesh, they're able to maintain normal brain function. These children are subjected to cruel and inhumane studies by the military, which they always end in the child being euthanized and autopsied. But one particular girl is exceptional in some way. She's got all the gifts, and her teacher escapes with her when the military base is attacked by zombies. What happens next, they're leaving unclear, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
But this movie clearly is a lot more focused on like the ethical and medical implications of a zombie type event, more than your usual zombie movie. So The Girl with All the Gifts comes out on September 23rd.
Sounds like a porn title, but it's not.
She's got all the gifts.
Anyways, the final trailer for this week, HBO finally put out a full trailer for their upcoming Westworld series, which is based on a 1973 science fiction film written and directed by Michael Crichton, who you would know as the writer of Jurassic Park. It's also executive produced by J.J. Abrams and Jonathan Nolan. The series revolves around an amusement park in the future called Westworld, which allows visitors to enter. He loves amusement parks. It allows visitors to enter a perfect recreation of the old American West and interact with human-looking, artificially intelligent robots that inhabit it. Much like how Jurassic Park was about the dangerous implications of messing with biology, Westworld is all about the dangerous implications of artificial intelligence, because guess what? Something goes wrong and the robots start killing people. So it looks dark as shit, and it premieres on HBO in October. It's gonna be like the live action version of Itchy and Scratchy Land on The Simpsons.
Yeah. It looks real good and real dark. Speaking of HBO, last weekend's episode of Game of Thrones blew a lot of people's minds, myself included, with not one but two massive battles that felt like they were straight out of a movie. And if you saw it and are curious just how the hell they pulled it all off, there's not one but two videos that take a deep dive into the making of the Battle of the Bastards.
Great name.
The first comes from the official Game of Thrones YouTube channel, and the other is from Variety's YouTube channel, and both of them delve into all the digital and visual trickery that went into making what is probably the most intense and violent and massive battle scene ever on a television show. And you'll also probably be surprised by how many of the shots weren't faked. It's just incredible seeing how far visual effects have come in such a short time, and it's the fact that it's now like TV.
Yeah, especially on a TV show.
The stuff in this episode looked better than the stuff in the first Lord of the Rings movie in a lot of ways.
Well, that was
cool.
16 years ago.
Yeah, but
anyway,
still.
Let's move on to other internet videos you should watch. Go check out The Secret World of Foley. It's a really great, beautifully shot short film showing all the ways that Foley artists create the sound effects in movies that you don't even realize are sound effects. In pretty much every movie or show you watch, every footstep, every door opening, pretty much everything aside from the actor's dialogue is all painstakingly recreated in post-production by Foley artists. These people have to come up with loads of unorthodox tricks to get pretty much any sound imaginable. And also a lot of sound effects that aren't imaginable at all. Seriously, go read about the Foley work on the original Star Wars trilogy. It is nuts.
Yeah, all like the lightsabers, it was like they were like hitting like massive like
cables. Yeah.
And like fucking with like broken televisions.
When I was a kid, I watched one how they did it for The Simpsons, and it was crazy. Like that was my first experience in some kind of like behind the scenes post production thing.
Yeah.
So.
For the last internet video that you absolutely must go and watch. An 8th grader in Chicago named Jack Aiello used his recent middle school graduation to show that he's already well on his way to being one of the greatest voice impressionists on earth. He delivered an 8-minute speech entirely in character as Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, Ted Cruz, Barack Obama, and Bernie Sanders, and he fucking killed it. We're usually very cynical when we see links to stories about little kids doing amazing things, because it's usually just bullshit.
Yeah.
But we are totally on board with this one and cannot wait to see what little Jack Aiello does with his talents.
Yes. Before we go, one of our favorite movies of the year. Everybody wants some. It's out on digital HD now. This is going to be out July 17th, I believe. But we just want to let you know, you can go download this now because I know it wasn't in a lot of theaters when it came out, but I saw it twice in theaters. And it is fantastic.
It's just a joy. It's a fun movie.
It's a fun movie, and it's one that it actually gets better with each watch. So we rarely like promote stuff that comes out because we always forget. But that movie really stuck out to me this year, and it's fucking hilarious. You're gonna love it. So go rent it, go buy it, do whatever you need. But yeah, make sure you check it out.
Yeah, and one last thing I just want to say, rest in peace to Anton Yelchin. Very sad news about his passing last weekend. He was only 27. And
freak accident.
Yeah, just fucking awful in every way. He had a great career ahead of him. My favorite movie of this year so far was Green Room, and he starred in it. So if you get around to watching that, I highly recommend it. He was great in it. He was great in everything he did. It just sucks when you see talent like that get taken away way too soon. So
rest in peace.
Yeah.
And guys, have a good weekend. We have our Nolan North podcast going up tomorrow. The sound isn't the best. We're very, very sorry. We didn't really have an oversight on the production that went into the live show, but it's a lesson that we can learn. It's not like you can't hear it at all. It's just you're really gonna have to pay close attention to what's going on. But the interview with Nolan North was so good that we didn't want to throw it away. So check that out tomorrow. Be as nice as possible in the comments.
What is this shit?
Yeah, it wasn't our fault. But have a good weekend anyway. We'll see you guys next time.